What's up, everyone? Evan here, bringing you some Ultra Premier battles for the purpose of discussing ABB lines and some of the risks and benefits associated with them. I'm using Escavalier on the lead with Omastar and Kabutops. Escavalier, double weak to fire. Omastar and Kabutops both double resist fire, but Omastar and Kabutops double weak to grass in the back, whereas Escavalier double resist grass. So on paper, this is a very standard ABB team. The front covers the back two very well, and the back two cover the front very well. The whole point of this team is to draw out a Venusaur with an Omastar swap in, and then close with Kabutops. Getting into this first battle, Escavalier on the lead against Umbreon. Very favorable for Escavalier considering it has counter and also Mega Horn. So the opponent's staying in, which is really curious. Umbreon, one of the tankiest Pokemon in all of Open Ultra League and Ultra Premier. I'm over farming here because I'm counting the snarls. I want to align my timing. And I'm expecting this Mega Horn to KO, so I want the extra farm. And I was also nervous that they would catch. But pretty much all of that goes out the door because the Mega Horn doesn't KO anyway. So I'm forced to shield here because I need the health on Escavalier in case they have a Venusaur in the back. So I swap immediately to Omastar in typical ABB fashion, trying to draw out that hard counter. And now I'm stuck in this matchup, which I have no intention of winning, but I'm very afraid of because Politoed is in a great position to both KO Omastar and farm it down and leave with a bunch of residual energy, which would be extremely bad for both of my Pokemon in the back. So I get the first Rock Blast off. It does hardly anything because Politoed is so tanky in the Ultra League. They get off a Weather Ball, it does not KO. And at this point, I'm nervous that they're going to be farming me down. I let an extra Mud Shot go through, which is very bad. Get this Rock Blast off. And another Rock Blast would really not be enough. It would be very, very close. Maybe it would be just barely enough. But I'm able to get this off, hoping that they shield. I do get the shield. And they farm me down, and now they probably have 50 or 60 energy. I get this counter through with the Escavalier. I know I can live this Weather Ball, so I let it go. At this point, I'm comfortable with letting that Weather Ball through because they would have swapped a Venusaur onto that Omastar if they had one. So I'm going to save that last shield for Kabutops. Under tap there to make sure I get the Drill Run off. And I get the final shield, and they insta-swap on my insta-swap into Skarmory. So Kabutops hitting for neutral with a Stone Edge, but taking resisted from all of Skarmory's moves with the exception of Flash Cannon, which I doubt they have. So I know this is only a Sky attack, and I let it go. I am afraid of the Brave Bird, but that was not enough energy. In hindsight, I should have thrown that Stone Edge after 7 Air Slashes because I would have hoped to get it off on a debuff Skarmory following a Brave Bird. But because I didn't do that, I overfarmed like crazy here, almost to 100 energy, knowing that Politoed cannot Mud Shot me down. And the biggest threat is winning this race to the next charge move. They come in and throw immediately, and I get an extra Mud Shot through, which is huge. And only one Mud Shot away at that point. They were probably 2 or 3 away. So able to win that game, despite that secondary matchup being a little bit tricky and a little bit scary. Curious why they stayed in with Umbreon in the lead, considering that both of their Pokemon did fairly well against it in the back. So, heading into the second matchup, Escavalier on the lead into Galvantula, which is very awkward. in Ultra League, especially. In Great League, you have a little bit more room to try and counter down because Galvantula is way squishier in Great League. I'm expecting this to be a lunge, but I shield anyway on the off chance that they go discharge, but they don't, and they insta swap into Talon Flame, which is amazing for me. But I go into Omastar, and I know this is probably going to be a flame charge, but I'm really hoping it's a Brave Bird to ensure that this Rock Blast will KO. It's a flame charge. I build up based on counting their incinerates, and I throw this Rock Blast. Gets a shield, which is really curious. And I throw the second one. I think I might have actually won CMP here, which sounds a little insane to think that Omastar is winning CMPs against Talonflame, but it's not. I just managed to get that through before another Incinerate came in. So I let this go knowing that it'll be a Brave Bird, and it does a lot more than I thought it would. And at this point, I was too afraid to farm down, so I throw this, hoping that they don't shield. And they don't, which is great, because if they had shielded that and that Incinerate goes through, they probably win that matchup. So Galvantula comes back in, throws a Volt Switch and KOs me. I come back in with Escavalier, immediately throw the Drill Run, which is not necessarily a great thing to do because there's always a chance that they catch. So at this point, I'm either going to not shield and farm down with Kabutops or survive a lunge. I do survive a lunge, and then for some reason I over farm with the counters, and maybe I was expecting to live that Volt Switch. But either way, I waste a ton of energy. Terrible play by my part, because now I'm forced to shield this lunge, even though I know it's going to be a lunge. And then their last Pokemon in the back is Scrafty anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. Very curious why they swapped the Talonflame with a Scrafty in the back. Interesting team comp. I'm hoping that this Stone Edge goes through, only to see how much it would do, even though this is now a debuffed Kabutops. But it gets shielded anyway, so GG's. That's one of those issues with these ABB teams, is sometimes there's just a Pokemon lurking in the back that you really can't get through. That Scrafty in the back was probably always going to wall this team, and there's really not a lot I could do about that. But good recognition by my opponent. Very heads up there. Usually when I see those Talonflame swap-ins, I get really excited and think that it's going to be a double Firebird team. And I expect there to be a Charizard in the back. So that was my thought process there, and it was a terrible read on my part. But going into this third game, Escavalier into Empoleon is a great matchup. And they swap Kingdra. So immediately I'm thinking this is Kingdra, or this is Empoleon double Dragon. But I don't have a direct response to any Dragon, including Dragonite, even though I have all these rock types in the back, because rock does not resist dragon, and the Dragon Breath is just so oppressive that it will knock them out in the 2 shields. So I let this Octazooka go, which is a terrible play, because now my Escavalier is not going to have enough health. I get this Rock Blast before any moves. I'm hoping it KOs, but I don't think it does. And because it doesn't, I'm hoping to farm down at this point. This move's coming in. I know it's going to be an Octazooka, but I want to shield it anyway, just in case on the off chance it's an Outrage. It is an Octazooka, hoping for no debuff, and of course I get the debuff. So that ruins my farm down plans. So I build up to 2 Rock Blast, just in case they decide to shield this. And they do not. So now I'm in a very tough position because Empoleon is going to farm. And Empoleon is going to have enough for Hydro Cannon. the very awkward part is that regardless of that, I think that I let Escavalier get so low that he could just waterfall me down anyway. So he gets another waterfall through on the entrance animation, which is very, very odd. And insta swaps into Dragonite. And at this point, I have no shields. He has one shield. Stone Edge would be enough to KO, but Kabutops just does not have the bulk or the HP to hang on in this matchup, so not much I can do here. They should have thrown a Dragon Claw by this time, and they end up actually going all the way to Hurricane and throwing the Hurricane, which is not very effective and probably not the right play. But bring back in Escavalier. Can't remember how much this Mega Horn does, so I just want to throw it and remind myself instead of leaving the game. And it does a fairly decent chunk. That's why if Escavalier in the 2 shield against Dragonite can land that Mega Horn, sometimes the counters can be enough. It might be a little bit IV dependent, a little bit dependent on whether it's a Shadow, fast move denial, that kind of stuff. So good game. Empoleon Double Dragon, obviously a big issue for every team in the Ultra League, including this one, and including a lot of ABB teams that aren't set up with Double Charm. So Escavalier into a Clefable, pretty neutral for the most part. The counters are resisted, the Mega Horn is resisted. Drill Run is not an amazing move, but it's not a bad move. But it's the only thing in this entire matchup on either side that will hit for neutral. So I throw it and immediately swap into Omastar, hoping to get the Venusaur, which I finally do. In all these sets, I try and find Venusaurs, and I think that this is the only one, which is very unfortunate. So I throw the Rock Blast. It does a meager amount. I wasn't expecting it to do very much. I just wanted this Venusaur on the field and out of the way. And at this point, I'm a little bit concerned about him fully farming me down. And he easily could have, but he chickens out there at the end, which is really great for me, because now Escavalier can come and fully farm down. Expecting this to be a Frenzy Plant, it's double resisted, I'll just take it. So Frenzy Plant, despite being double resisted, is just a broken and extremely good move, so I'm going to have to shield this second one. And I counter all the way down. I don't counter all the way down because they actually swap into Clefable, an incredibly interesting choice, probably because they have a move stored. I'm able to get off this second Drill Run, which is huge, and I'm expecting this to be a CMP tie, but they let it go through. Very curious why they swapped in and then also gave away that shield. And their last Pokemon in the back is an Ice Fang for Alligator, which I have also run on the swap, trying to get those Venusaurs aligned, or trying to draw out those Venusaurs and get off some extra damage with the Ice Fang, so that a Swampert in the back can be fine. So they let that first Stone Edge go through, probably anticipating maybe a water move, or just generally not knowing what Kabutops has, because I think that this is the only time I've seen Kabutops used in any league, with the exception of a Poke AK video. But no shields left. Gonna let this go through. Probably more than enough to KO. Actually, not enough to KO. Maybe it was an undercharge. Maybe Kabutops is a little bit tankier than I give it credit. But because I threw that mud shot, when the Venusaur came back in, it registered on that Venusaur and was able to knock it out, which doesn't really make a huge difference in this matchup, but might have helped save that sliver of HP that Escavalier needed to win that game. So another Escavalier into a Clefable lead. Same situation, very awkward. Charm, despite being resisted, just does so much damage. And they swap Dragonite. So when people swap Dragonite, I don't necessarily expect a Kingdra in the back, but it kind of always has to be in the back of your mind that a Dragon swap is going to be met by a Dragon closer. So I throw the Rock Blast. This was a bad swap in on my part. There's really no good way for me to play this because both of my back Pokemon are so weak in the 2-shield scenario to Dragon Breath that it probably would have always been a loss. But I throw this Rock Blast. It's going to do about 70%. Nowhere close to Mudshot downrange. And at this point, I'm kind of just unsure of how to play this. I'm going to overfarm a tiny bit from the Rock Blast just so I can have a little bit of residual energy in case he lets this go. I'm actually hoping he shields this so that I could then come and farm down with Escavalier, a very aggressive counter farm down. But he lets it go, which is not good because this Clefable is going to come back in and it is going to charm me down. I overtap on the Mud Shots, which is really bad in practice, but ends up not being a detriment to me, which is very lucky. So Omastar goes down. He got a few charms in, which does not make a huge difference, but considering I have no shields, it makes it a little bit scarier for this Escavalier match. So he blocks that for his Troll Run. He's charming all the way up and throwing what I expected to be a Meteor Mash, but it actually ends up being a Psychic, which is not really bad, but not really good. Maybe they were fishing for a debuff, but they make an amazing catch onto Umbreon. Umbreon catches this Drill Run. Mega Horn would have been super effective. We know that it wouldn't have been enough, but Umbreon just so tanky in the Ultra League that makes these no-shielded neutral matchups very awkward. The Stone Edge is going to do about 40 to 50%, which is both not enough to KO and also not enough to put it in Mudshot farm down range. It doesn't even do about 40%. Maybe it does about 30. So at this point, I know that this is a loss purely based on bulk. And this just goes to show you that in these ABB teams, sometimes it's very, very important for that secondary matchup to be ready to go head-to-head with a bulky Mon. Or a Mon that has Dragon Breath or another oppressive fast move like that. So when you design these ABB teams, it can be really good to think about not only two things in the back that cover what you're bringing in the lead, but also think about what Pokemon they're going to try and swap in on yours that are neutral matchups that are anticipating your counter swap. So a lot of times these people might bring in Charm users, Dragon Breath users, and even if your ABB on paper aligns well against them in the one shield, it's really important to have those 2 shield ready Pokemon that can just outbulk or hang with a lot of these possible counter swaps.